Looking at our world from a theological perspective. This is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday, November the 21st, 2021. It is currently 8:40 a.m. Central Time, and here I am inside the empty sanctuary of Victory Baptist Church, located right here in Ovalo, Texas. Now, because it's Sunday morning, that means here what? Let's see, it's 8:40, around 9:40, 9:45, somewhere around that time, people will start arriving. Maybe I'm being too hopeful. Typically, people show up late, but I'm going to assume that today people are going to show up around 9:45, 9:50 a.m., and then we will get started at 10 a.m. for Sunday school. But because people are going to arrive, then obviously I have limited time, so we have to get started with some. I'm going to try to do as much as I can before people arrive, because I don't want them walking into the church and I'm like, shh, I'm doing a podcast. Sit down. Just sit up there in the pews and let me finish the podcast. Now, I obviously have to be ready for people to arrive, but I always like to use every second that I have available to me to try to accomplish something that will be beneficial and useful. And there's one thing that we definitely need to do, because I shouldn't say we. I want to blame some of you. I have to blame some of you, because you guys always contact me via email, sending me articles, sending me things that I have to talk about, which then in many cases pushes aside things that I was scheduled to talk about. But at the same time, I love that. But I do feel bad when things that we've been working on kind of gets pushed back to the bottom of the stack. I always feel bad. And then all of a sudden I look one day, I'm like, wait a minute, it's been how long since I've done an episode on that? And then I have to try to get myself caught back up. In fact, it has been the last time we're going to talk. It's been almost a month. October the 23rd was the last time that we opened a copy of The Imitation of Christ by Thomas à Kempis and did a little reading, meditating, discussing, and studying. It's October the 23rd. That was the last one. So it's been almost a month. That is unacceptable, but it happens because there's always so many other things to look at. But I'm going to try to get back to doing as many episodes as we can, working through The Imitation of Christ by Thomas à Kempis. We've been working on this book for a very long time, but we take some of these detours and delays, so we're going to get back to it today. Now, when it's been a month, that means it's very difficult to ease back into the book. All we can really do is I can just walk up and just jump in, and I would challenge you, go back to October the 23rd and look for The Inward Life Part 3, and that will get you caught up if you need to go back and listen. We are in... Remember, The Imitation of Christ by Thomas à Kempis is broken into basically 4 books. We are in Book 2, Chapter 1, which is called, you can probably guess, The Inward Life. Now, the whole reason we started this book, I doubt you even, some of you may remember, but many of you probably have no idea. We started this book because right when the pandemic was really starting to have an impact and things were starting to be locked down, I really felt that there was going to be all kinds of noise and people arguing and everyone having issues. And I was like, you know what? One of the things you're going to need to do as a Christian is not get caught up in all of that noise, but to turn all of that off and find things that you can focus on that will be spiritually beneficial, that will help you grow as a Christian. And I thought the famous book, The Imitation of Christ by Thomas à Kempis, would give everyone something that they could read, they could meditate on, they could focus on, so that it would help move them forward spiritually instead of being distracted by all of the craziness that I thought was going to ensue because of the pandemic. Well, the craziness did ensue. Most people weren't really that interested in meditating on the book, The Imitation of Christ. They wanted to spend more time arguing about conspiracy theories. So obviously it wasn't the most successful series that we have ever done, but I still think it's important. So we are pressing on, and I'm going to finish it one way or the other. But are you ready? We're going to go back in my copy to page 65. Again, The Inward Life, Chapter 1, Book 2, of The Imitation of Christ by Thomas à Kempis, and we're going to back up just a little bit, and we're going to start with this paragraph. Here we go. I know I wish there was an easy way to enter into this, but there isn't. Let's just jump in. Obviously, all of the episodes are available online, and you can go back. I would challenge you at least to go back to the beginning of this chapter with the Inward Life Part 1, and that would at least get you caught up to this point. Or you can go all the way back and listen to all of the episodes. TheologyCentral.net, if you go to episodes, you can a drop-down menu will occur, and you'll see the series, The Imitation of Christ. I do need to go add some more episodes to that section because I'm way behind in doing that, but I'll try to do that. Maybe I can get to that this afternoon. We will see. All right, here we go. Book 2, Chapter 1, Thomas à Kempis, Imitation of Christ. The chapter is called The Inward Life. Let's read the following. A lover of Jesus and of the truth, and a true inward Christian, and one free from unruly affections, can freely turn himself unto God and lift himself above himself in spirit, and with profit remain at rest. Now, there's a lot we could say here, but I just want to emphasize that Thomas à Kempis is really going with this idea of a true inward Christian. Not just a Christian outwardly, but inwardly. And he's really focusing on this inward reality of your faith, that it's not just shown by external actions. I go to church, I read my Bible, I don't go here, I don't talk that way, I don't do this. We have a lot of our Christianity is very external, but how much of our Christianity is truly is truly found inwardly? Are we an inward Christian? Right now, and he lists a lot of things there, but I just want to emphasize that part. Now, this is where we ended our last time over a month ago with this statement: to the individual to whom all things taste as they are, and not as they are said or are esteemed to be, is truly wise and taught rather of God than men. Now, that is a very, 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 very profound statement. Let me read it to you one more time. To the person that all things taste as they are and not as they are said or esteemed to be, is truly wise. What is Thomas à Kempis trying to say? To the individual who sees things as they really are. They taste things as they really are. Not what everyone tells you they should be. Not what you want them to be. But you see things as they are. One of the most important things about, and I know I say that about a lot of things, but this is a very critical part of spiritual growth in your spiritual life, is that you truly have that ability to see things as they are. You throw off what everyone tells you things should be. You are able to distinguish what things are versus what you want them to be. So many times our perception is so very wrong. We perceive things in a way that's completely incorrect, or we listen to everyone else tells us that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. And we have to be able to see things as they truly are so that we have a correct understanding, a correct perception, and we are not deceived, manipulated, or confused. But we have to see things as they really are. We talked a lot about that in the episode we did a month ago. I wish there was more. We could say so much more about that, but it's just a powerful statement. So let's move on. All right. So he to whom all things taste as they are, and not as they are said or seem to be, is truly wise and taught rather of God than men. Next sentence. He who can live inwardly and make small reckonings of things okay, let me read this again. He who can live inwardly and make small reckonings of things without, neither seek places nor waits for times for performing of religious exercises. Right, so once again, he's back to this inward Christianity, this inward reality of your faith. It's very present on the inside. If for the person who can live inwardly, you make small reckonings of things without, right? You make small reckonings of things without. You look at things without, but you put them in their proper place. You will neither seek places nor wait for times for performing of religious exercises. In other words, if you're truly living a Christian life inwardly, then you're going to be inwardly worshiping God, inwardly focusing on God. You're not going to have to wait till you can go to church. You're not going to have to wait till Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Because your relationship with God, the reality of your faith, will be ever present inwardly, even if you can't make it to church. You don't have to wait till Sunday. It's a living reality inwardly. How real is your faith inwardly? Not how real is your faith outwardly. Now, I know there needs to be a little of both. But I think, and I've talked about this in other podcasts before, sometimes I believe Christianity almost disintegrates into a performance-based art. It's like it just becomes a performance. Like, okay, it's time to perform. It's time to say the right words. It's time to go here. It's time. Okay, the curtain's coming up. Action, everyone, go. Well, praise God, brother. How's it going? And we fall into a performance. The external performance should be based off an inward reality, but I think sometimes we put forth an external performance that is not that does not clearly picture the inward reality. And we have to constantly be worried about the inward reality of our spirituality and where we are spiritually inwardly. There's a lot we could talk about here. A spiritual man quickly recollects himself because he never pours out himself wholly to outward things. So a spiritual man quickly recollects himself because he never pours out himself wholly to outward things. Now, that's an interesting concept. We don't completely give ourselves over to outward things because we are focused on this inward. I don't know exactly. I'd have to give that some thought. I would have to give this one some thought, because should we give ourselves fully to things outwardly? Like one of the things that happens here, especially in the writings of Thomas à Kempis, sometimes you may feel like that he slides over, like he goes to one extreme over another. I think we need a healthy balance. Now, I will say this. And I'm going to try to modify this a little bit. As Christians, we live in the world. And as a fact of living in the world, there's things all around us. We'll call them distractions that call for our attention, that call for our giving ourselves to, right? There's entertainment, there's responsibility, there's just so much. And sometimes I think we give so much of ourselves to these outward things that are not going to help us grow spiritually. They're not spiritual in nature. They may not be sinful, but we give ourselves to so many other things that we have very little of ourselves to give to the things of God. And in a sense that we so wholly give ourselves to outward things that we have nothing left for our spiritually to give. We've so exhausted ourselves, in a sense, I'll use this word, by giving ourselves to so many external things that we have nothing left for spiritual meditation and thinking about the things of God and the worship of God and prayer, and because we've exhausted ourselves by all of the things we've given to outwardly. I think there's something to be said there. He is not hindered by outward labor or business, which may be necessary for a time, but as things fall out, so he accommodates himself to them. So in other words, yeah, Thomas à Kempis is acknowledging there's these things outwardly that we have to give ourselves to. There's things that we have to do, but we realize that we give ourselves to them to accomplish them, to do them right, but we don't give so much of ourselves to them that we don't have anything left for the inward reality of our faith and the things of God. Now, how do you balance this out? I don't think that there is a instruction manual somewhere. I can only try. I can try my best to explain this based off my own experience. And I don't know if this is going to make any sense, but I'm going to do my best. All right. I was in the United States military, the Air Force, 19 years until I was medically retired, declared 100% disabled because of everything that happened. I won't go through all the story. And during those 19 years, I at times was I would be looked down upon, not well respected by those in leadership. And this often led to my lack of wanting to give myself fully to outward things. What outward things am I referring to? No one ever really had a problem with my job performance. I did my job. Usually I was praised for how I did my job. I usually received lots of, I received rewards and praise for how I did my job, but there was a problem. I didn't seem that committed to what I'm going to refer to as the reindeer games of the military. They had dining ins and dining outs, and they had this activity and be a part of this and volunteer for this and do this. And I basically said, no, I'm not doing any of those things unless I'm specifically commanded to do so, because I'm not going to disobey, but I'm going to do everything I can to avoid all of this nonsense, because I am here to do my job, do it correctly, make sure patients are taken care of, because I was in the medical world, and then I'm going home. I'm not worried about getting rewards. I'm not worried about moving up in rank. I'm not worried about this position. I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about, I need to change bases and go to a different base, because that's, in one way, that's how you get medals. I'm going to not volunteer for that. No, there were so many things. I'm like, I don't care about any of that. And it viewed like I was anti-military. I hated the military. And it's like, people never caught on. No, my focus is not here. I'm doing my job because it's my job and I want to do it right. But my focus is on the things of God. It's on my spiritual growth. It's on church. It's on theological education. It's on those kinds of things. And sometimes people had a hard time. They perceive me as, well, he's just lazy. He has no ambition. He doesn't care. And before it was all over, I think most of the leadership, most of my commanders, and some of them either called me in and apologized that they basically they didn't understand me correctly, that they had an opinion of me that wasn't accurate, because they realized ultimately, before it was all said and done, all the different jobs I was doing that wasn't even actually my job. I was doing this and doing this and doing this and doing that. I never made a big deal out of it. I wasn't looking for praise. I was just doing whatever I was told to do to the best of my ability. But I'm telling you, when the clock said 4 o'clock or 4:30, whatever time I was allowed to get up, whatever shift I was working, I mean, half a second after, if it was 4:30, a half a second after 4:30, my car was going out of that parking lot as fast as I could. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't stick around if a patient needed something or if I had a job. I wasn't disobeying anyone, but I wasn't going to stick around 1 second to do anything that I didn't need to do, because my focus was on other things. So this sometimes put me in conflict with everyone. It felt like their identity was their military success, was their military career. And that wasn't my identity. The military, I have nothing. I didn't keep any reward. I didn't keep anything. I don't have anything from the military. Any awards I got, I typically threw them away. I didn't keep anything. Why? Because that wasn't my identity. That to me was outward things. That was the things of this world. I was trying to focus on spiritual things. Now, there's got to be a balance in this. There's got to be a balance. I'm not saying that I had the proper balance, but I'm saying that there was a little bit of that. No. I'm not giving myself to that. I would rather be doing something else. And that's kind of where Thomas à Kempis is referring to. Let me read this again. So a spiritual man recollects himself because he never pours himself out wholly to outward things. He is not hindered by outward labor. The reason I wasn't hindered by outward labor is I gave what I needed to outward labor, and then I immediately focused on spiritual things. He is not hindered by outward labor or business, which may be necessary for the time, but as things fall out, so he accommodates himself to them. So he realizes I got to do this, and then he moves on. I'll give you another example. I'll give you a couple of examples of where I felt people in the military gave themselves too much to outward things. I would see this all the time. When you first arrive at your first duty section, you have to then begin doing basically you get these books and you have to study these books, and then you have to take a test, right? So you get to your first duty section, and then you are now giving these books, basically a course of study. You have to read through the books, and then you have to take tests. If you don't pass these tests, it can greatly hinder, ultimately you could end up ending your military career. Well, I saw over and over and over many Christians who would either, I can't go to church tonight because I got to study this. I can't read my Bible tonight because I have to do this. And now I understood those things had to be done, but it felt like they gave themselves so fully to that, they neglected the spiritual. And then after you get done with those things, and I can't even remember what they're called right now, after you get done with that and you pass your test, you're good to go, boom, you're great, now you're good. Well, it won't be very long that now you got to start studying so that you can pass the test, score high enough on the test so that you can make rank for staff sergeant, tech sergeant, master sergeant, whatever the case may be. Well, then I saw many Christians like, okay, well, I can't really go to church tonight because I got to study for my test so that I can make rank. And it's like there was always something that people would put before the things of God. They couldn't balance it. They couldn't say, okay, now look, I've studied, but now it's time to go to church. I've studied, but now I need to set some time aside so that I can focus on my spiritual life for whether a devotional study, Bible study, or whatever the case may be. It's like people would give themselves so outwardly to making rank, to accomplishing the next goal for their career, that they would sacrifice the things of God for it. And then I saw Christians do this all the time. Well, you know what? If I'm really going to make rank, I need to get I got to earn some medals. And basically the only way to earn some medals here in the military is if I leave this base. Typically when you leave that base, they're going to write you out a medal package so that you'll get an award. Well, those goes for points when you take your test to make rank. And so people would be like, okay, well, I think I need to go find a way to get to another base. So they would go change what's in a sense called your dream sheet, trying to put in to go to a different base. And this was all part of their master plan to make rank and advance in their military career. But I watched this happen over and over and over. They're in a city. They're stationed at a base where there's a very good church. They're going to church. They seem to be doing well spiritually, but they have to move to advance in their military career. They never consider what church they're going to find when they move. And many of them would go to another base, and guess what? You would find out, well, we can't really find a good church. We haven't been to church in a while. I've been busy with work. They're giving themselves so much to an outward thing that it had a negative impact on them spiritually. So the thing is, whatever you're doing in your career, by all means, I understand you want to be successful. I understand advancing can be very beneficial to you financially. I understand that. Just you've got to find a way so that you don't give yourself so much to the outward things that you hinder or hurt yourself spiritually speaking. How to balance that there is no instruction manual. There is no like, here are the 3 steps. You have to be honest with yourself going, I've done this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. What am I doing spiritually? What am I doing? And you got to ensure that your identity is not based off your success in your job, but your identity is found in Christ. What is really your purpose in life? He goes on to say this, or Thomas Kempis does. He who is well-ordered, please note, well-ordered, that may be the key word, well-ordered. You have to be well-ordered so that you have everything in its proper place. It doesn't mean that you're a horrible employee, you never advance in your career, you're 3 seconds away from being fired because you don't do your job right, and you're using your spirituality as an excuse. That's the other wrong extreme. It's well-ordered. You have your job, your career in its proper place. And you have, the things of God in its proper place. He who is well-ordered and disposed within himself cares not for the strange and perverse behavior of men. A man is hindered and distracted in proportion as he draws outward things to himself. The person who is well-ordered and disposed within himself cares not for the strange and perverse behavior of men. You're not worried about the perverse behavior of man. You're not pulled away by the perverse actions of men. You are not unmoved by that because you have everything properly in order. You have everything in a correct place. A man is hindered. This is what happens. Spiritually, you become hindered and distracted in proportion as he draws outward things to himself. When you are drawing outward things to himself, you're pulling those outward things to yourself. That then is you are going to be hindered and distracted in proportion to that. So how much of the outward things do you pull to yourself? Now, sometimes it's this interesting phrase, the way he writes this, because I would almost write it, you're distracted in the direct proportion outward things draw you to them. I would say there's the outward things and they draw you to them. And that's the direct proportion you are distracted from the things of God. But Thomas à Kempis doesn't put the responsibility on the outward things. He puts the responsibility on the individual. You are distracted as you draw the outward things to you, that you're the ones who draw the outward things to yourself. It's not the outward things drawing you to them. It's you drawing the outward things to yourself. I think typically we put the blame on the outward things. There's all those outward things, and they call for us. They draw us away from the things of God. But Thomas à Kempis is like, no, you draw them to you, which is a very interesting way of wording it. I don't know if he did this on purpose. Again, when you're trying to read these very old books within church history, you have to do a lot of guessing and trying to sometimes analyzing what maybe they were thinking. Sometimes you wish you could sit down and say, now, could you explain this a little more? But I think that's just a powerful way of saying it. So let me read it one more time, all right? Because I think this is something that could spend a lot of time thinking about. A man is hindered and distracted in proportion as he draws outward things to himself. So we'll end with this, all right? I want to go further, but we've only got one paragraph to go, but yeah, we'll just end here. We'll end here. I'll stop right here. Now, I may regret it because in the next episode, we just basically have one paragraph. So I may regret the next episode. I may read the next paragraph and go, I probably should have just concluded it in the last one, but that's okay. I want you to just ask yourself, do you have things properly ordered? Do you give yourself too much to outward things which then demonstrates the outward things, are of the greater importance to you? And do you draw outward things to yourself, therefore distracting you from the things of God? Something for you to contemplate. All right. All right. I want to read the next one, but we'll just stop. We'll stop right there. All right. That gets us back a little bit into The Imitation of Christ by Thomas à Kempis. Again, that was Book 2, Chapter 1, The Inward Life. Chapter 1, Book 2, Chapter 1, The Inward Life. The next chapter is Humble Submission. That'll be Chapter 2. And we're going to really try to put an emphasis on the Imitation of Christ over the next, between now and the end of the year. We're really going to try to make it a priority and see how far we can get by the end of 2021. All right? Because there's other books I would like to work on. There's other things we would like to do, but we will do our very best. Okay? I hope that was beneficial. I really do. So you can give me your thoughts on this. Email me, newsif@yahoo.com, newsif@yahoo.com. That's newsif@yahoo.com. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great day. We'll be back on the air at 10 a.m. We're back in the Niagara Creed. We're going to finish the Niagara Creed this morning. All right. The goal is to try to catch up and finish a lot of things this morning. That's what we're going to be doing here at Victory Baptist Church. So 10 a.m., it'll probably start about 10 a.m. It'll be under VBC, Niagara Creed, part 40-something. And we will see what we have in store for us today. So please tune in. And then at 11:20 a.m., we'll be back in the book of Romans. We got to finish the doctrine of election. So a lot of very important things to discuss. All right, everyone have a great day. God bless.